Assalamu alaikum everyone. This is Nuresa Batohura and welcome to my class. I'm delivering this demo class for teaching Apprentice Fellowship Program. I'm a graduate of English Language and Literature from Daffodil International University. So without any further ado, let's start the class. The topic of this class is figure of speech, and I'm going to talk about three types of figure of speech: metaphor, simile, and irony. But what is figure of speech? Figure of speech is a word or phrase used in non literal sense for rhetoric or vivid effects. Now let's talk about the learning objects. The learning objects of this class are understanding the definition of mentioned figures of speech, enhance writing by applying these figures of speech in your writing. And we all know that in literature, the authors have used figures of speech to enhance their writing. So after this class, one would be able to understand literature better. Now let's talk about metaphor. Metaphor is a figure of speech that makes an implied or hidden comparison between two things that are unrelated but share some common characteristics. Are you confused? Let's look at the examples. The first example is her voice is music to his ears. Well, here her voice and music is completely unrelated. So, how we are going to compare these two things? Maybe her voice is melodious, and that's why her voice is being compared with music. Although these two things are not related, but they are sharing some few common characteristics. That's why we are comparing her voice with music. And now let's look at an example from the literature. And I want to quote one line from Sonnet 18 by William Shakespeare. But thy eternal summer shall not fade. Here, in this poem, the narrative is mainly talking about his beloved, and he is comparing his beloved with eternal summer, and he's saying that his beloved beauty shall not fade away. And that's how the poet is comparing his beloved and the summer. And this is an example of metaphor. Now let's look at another figure of speech, simile. Simile is a figure of speech that makes a comparison showing similarities between two different things. Well, I think it is an example of metaphor. It is the definition of metaphor, right? Wrong. There are some differences between simile and metaphor, and that is, unlike a metaphor, a simile draws resemble with the help of the words like or as. Therefore, it is a direct comparison. Are you confused? Let's look at the example. He is as cunning as a fox. Well, here he is being compared with the fox, and we can see that the word as is mentioned here. So it means it is an example of simile. And also, we can see that he and the fox is completely unrelated or different thing, but their cleverness is the similar qualities that we find. So, therefore, it is an example of simile. But if it was an example of metaphor, then how would be? I think he is a fox. If we say that he is a fox, then we are saying an example of metaphor. But since we are mentioning the comparison here, that what we are comparing, therefore, and also we are using the word as. So now he is as cunning as a fox. So it is an example of simile. And let's look at another example from the poem The Daffodils by William Wordsworth. I wandered lonely as a cloud. Here, the narrative I wandered lonely as a cloud. We can see that as this word is mentioned in this line. And here, the narrative is comparing himself with a cloud. and also saying that he is lonely. So we can see what the narrator is comparing himself with. So he is as lonely as the cloud, and therefore it is an example of simile. Now let's talk about irony. We often mistake irony, and we think that irony is a funny thing or something like that. But it is a figure of speech in which words used in such a way that their intent meaning is different from the actual meaning of the words. It may also be situation that ends up in a quite different way than what is generally anticipated. In simple words, it is a difference between the appearance and the reality. Are you still confused? Okay, let's look at the types of the irony and it will help you to understand more better way. There are three types of irony basically. One is verbal, another is dramatic irony, and the last is situational irony. What is verbal irony? Verbal irony means it involves what one does not mean. Let's give an example. For example, when in response of a foolish idea, we say, "What a great idea." Well, we are not actually meaning that it is a great idea. It is a foolish idea, and we all know that, but we are saying a completely different things. So, therefore, it is an example of verbal irony. Another is dramatic irony. Well, in dramatic irony, the characters don't know what is going to happen, but the audience actually know. And this dramatic irony has been used in many dramas. And we all know about Romeo and Juliet, right? The audience knew that Juliet has uh, take the sleeping potion to show their family that she is dead. But the Romeo did not know that. And that's why when he saw that Juliet is dead, he took the poison. We all knew that Juliet is actually not dead. So a tension is being created, and this tension is dramatic irony. It is we know what is going to happen, and we know what is the actual realities, but the characters doesn't know that. Now let's talk about my favorite situational irony. Situational irony is when both of us, the characters and the audience, are unaware of the situation, and what is seen, it is completely different from the reality. Let's look at this comic. Here is the award for most kind and polite student goes to this person. But look how he's talking. "I don't want your goofy award." So here he is not polite and not at all kind, and he is being awarded as the most polite and kind student. So this is an irony, right? So this is a situational irony. In reality, it should have been like this boy should have said, "Oh, thank you so much, I have received this award." But we did not expect such line from this boy. "I don't want your goofy awards." So this is an example of situational irony. And that's all from me. But before ending the class, I want to brief what we have been taught in this class. We have learned about metaphor, simile, and irony, and the types of irony. And by using this, we can easily enhance our writing, and it would look we can also write dramas and do the creative writings as well. So that's all for me. And before ending this video, I want to throw a question for you. How many times you use metaphor, simile, and irony in your day-to-day life? Think about it. Bye.